Otsukima here. Who else would it be? This is the Bitcoin brief for June 1st. Hope you've had a good weekend. I kind of just took the weekend off. Had a lot of things going on. A lot of people don't know this, but my wife has a photography business, and so that's one of the reasons I take off because she does a lot of weddings, and weddings are usually on Saturdays. So that's why. And yeah, it's been going good for us. We've been doing that about 6 or 7 years now. So anyway, besides the point, I hope you've had a good weekend. As you guys know, or maybe you don't, this is the Bitcoin brief. So we'll do Bitcoin. About half this video will be just Bitcoin to give us a really good, clear context. Because I think focusing on the Bitcoin chart will help us give context for the rest of the crypto markets for the rest of the week. So we tend to do that, and then we'll also do a couple minutes on Ethereum and Solana. I have not done as much lately. I think I did say we were going to do other coins. I think I'm going to reserve it for just the big three at this moment. So, with that being said, glad you could make it, and yeah, and not to plug, but I guess I will. Like, just like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, especially, really could use the subscribe. I think I'm at like 308 subscribers. Really trying to get to 500, get that monetized, and so that's really good. If you could just hit the subscribe, and you could even mute me after that. It's fine with me. Just trying to get over that hump with that one. So I do appreciate that. If you're on Twitter, you probably follow me anyway, but appreciate a like or a follow. And also, I have a Patreon if you're interested. It's just basically my quote unquote paid group where I just do videos like this for the altcoin markets and sectors. I am going to get into stocks. I think I'm going to circle back, like especially as I think that the market might be topping at the end of the year. I think I am going to go to stocks, and not completely, but I think I'm going to cover both crypto and stocks. So look forward to that. But I do, if you want to check out Patreon, you can. The first month is half off. So that being said, let's just get started here because you don't want to hear me advertise all the time. So with Bitcoin, I'll cover the weekly in more detail and observations with Otsu. But right now we finally got our bearish week, and this has been, what was it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the eighth candle was bearish, and that's no surprise to me. It shouldn't be a surprise to you either, because that's just how the law of candlesticks kind of work. Usually you don't get more than 7, and so I think only 3 times in Bitcoin history have we gotten 8, and so I was expecting that we could, but we didn't. We got the bearish candle. But that being said, this ended up being a pretty good candle, a pretty uh, was it consolation of a week. I think a lot of people anticipated this to be much worse. This was right around, I guess, my tolerance level for a quote unquote red week. It could have certainly been worse. I feel like it should have been, and that's okay. I'm not trying to be bearish. I prefer being bullish here, but the one thing we can look at here is that it closed above the zone here on the weekly. Now, this could go 50-50, and I mentioned this somewhat in a X post just before I recorded this. We held the zone here, but we still could certainly go down. There's nothing here that indicates that this is a bounce to me, at least on the weekly time frame, and we can see that in more detail here on the other channel here, or the other chart, where we're looking at this from a big channel here. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here to get the bullish channel from the daily. We broke down from that, okay? So this is no longer valid. But but we can zoom back in to look at this from the bigger channel here, and it's already broken through the midline. And so the trend is not currently our friend, so to speak, if you want to talk cliche about that. We do have the price action in our favor, but we do not have the trend in our favor. So this is going to be conflicting. I think this will be a very conflicting week because most of the time trends tend to break anyway. And when you get a midline break of this trend, we do tend to revisit this lower level here at some point. And I would prefer that we don't, because we've already done 2 touches on each side of the channel. The 5th touch on either side is probably going to be a break of some sort. Now, to break on the upside, we'd have to go pretty far. We have to go like almost 130,000. So that's going to be a pretty tall task either way. And so we'll see how this goes. I would also, you can't really just kind of let this chop all the way, because now you're into October of 2023. So we can kind of play this out. I still think this is a good rule if we get closer to this, how we'll play this reaction, okay? This trend line here at the bottom is something I'll absolutely be playing for a long. If we get a bounce, and whether we get one or not, I think it's worth a good attempt to do so. But we'll see how that goes. On the daily here, I did have this marked out. This is the midline of the previous channel, which is we also bounced off of, so that's actually pretty good. We also bounced off of the 50 RSI, and so this all looks pretty well. And so we'll see how that goes. Either side on the daily here, we have a very low bearish consolidation, looking for a bearish cross to cross upward. And that's actually, that's going to end up being a somewhat weak attempt for bears. They're going to have a chance to continue the momentum. We'll see how it goes. So far, see, the market here is a little bit tricky because, and especially at near the top, because the bulls and the bears both don't really have a big fight here, and so when you don't have a really big fight in terms of momentum, you have to shift into like what I tend to refer to as like gravity. And so that ends up being like, so when nobody wants to buy or nobody wants to sell, and people are certainly buying or selling, but when the momentum kind of shifts lower, things tend to, for a coin toss, let's say, things tend to gravitate towards the bears. And the reason they do that is because if an asset just stays up too high for too long, people get bored and they just sell. There's not a lot of people that just get bored at the highs and then just decide to buy. Usually it's like, well, I've already bought at 80,000, 90,000, or even 100,000, and like, oh, I'm done with this. I'm going to cash out. The inverse is also true for the bottom. This is why I'm a big fan of looking at the bottom when there's a low volume bottom here that you buy, because the idea here at the bottom here, like 20,000 or 16 or 17,000, a lot of people want to look at like, where are the buyers? And I've said this plenty before, so if you follow me for a couple of years, you know what I'm going to say. The question here at the bottom here is, where are the buyers? But the question should be, where are the sellers? The sellers have already sold, right? They've already sold all the way down here. And so when there's no sellers left, when there's no selling interest, when the volume is low at the bottom, that is the time to buy, okay? By default, you don't need to have buying pressure, buying presence to buy at a good spot. That's why I'm not a volume trader, by the way, as far as buying with volume. Like, I don't look for volume to buy something. Excuse me, sorry. Because by the time you've done that, you've already chopped into the momentum, okay? And so if there's a lot of buying interest and then it goes up, well, now you have a lot of people that have bought that are in profit, and now they could sell and get their money's worth, right? Or whatever they decide to do. So the inverse is also true here. You shouldn't be asking like where are the buyers, or where are the sellers, but where are the buyers? Okay, and if there's no buyers here, the market's gonna come down. So that's how that works. Gravity basically is how that works. So that's pretty much it for the weekly. If we go to the daily here, we have some more levels here to work with. Let's see if I can get my tool out here. Sorry, I've been sneezing all day too, so I apologize. So this is your swing high order block. We deviated from that. We deviated to the downside. And so there is some issues on how we've deviated and how we've not. We definitely did on the daily. And so right now, we're actually looking at a little bit of a bounce and sort of a retest here. And so I need to draw something else here. This order block, I'm going to draw as a fib block, so you get a good context with this. And so you have the deviation going down, hit roughly the midline of this order block. That's exactly what you want. Excuse me a second. And so with this, you had the bounce up, and now we're kind of retesting this. So far, so good. If you are a bull, you wanted this to retest the mid, and now it's retesting the highs. That's looking good right now. If you are a bull and you want to continue being a bull and make profits as a bull, you want this top side 104.816 to hold by the end of the day. That's basically your only objective, especially coming on the first day of the trading week when things tend to go red. You want this to hold at just 104 or 105 really. If you are a bear, you actually want this to come up a little bit more, hit the 106 marker or very close to it, and then reject down. And so your new level really ends up being this. Okay? And so this is the level that you need to work with now. If it breaks to the upside, and I would even say up here, because you have this order block structure, little mini breaker here. If you're interested in longing, I would wait until a breach of 106 for 70. Okay, and down here, we could look at this from 104.8. I mean, if you wanted to be a little more safe, you could hit the low here because that's where the midline is. And that would be about 104, roughly 104 even. So that would be the level that I'm interested in, because this would encapsulate the momentum and the shift of both the supply and demand at the current level. So until then, I think it's best just to be on the sideline. I really, I don't talk about this enough, but I really do think people should just wait to trade. I think people, there's people all over the board. People think I trade too much. People think I don't trade enough. And I personally trade very less compared to other people for two reasons. One, I increase my risk. A lot of people are quite surprised that my average trade is probably about 2 to 3% risk. Okay, so even like 4-hour trades or whatever, most of my trades are usually 2%. Some of them are 3 to 5%. I've had some as high as 10 or 12% in the portfolio. I've had personal trades that are 25% risk, and the reason I do that is because I focus and hone on trades that I'm very specifically convinced of. Okay, I don't like to spray and pray, for example, using a more of a gun term. I'm much more of a sniper. Okay, I make sure of my shot, I shoot. That's how I operate. And the other reason is because there's a lot of other people that trade extremely, like a lot. Like I've seen people trade close to 100,000 trades per year, and I think that's insane. I should say 100, maybe like 80,000. So I still think that's quite insane. I mean, you're that's quite a bit. Now this person I know pretty well has made a lot of money doing that. That's just not me. That's not how I operate. I prefer to kind of snipe, so to speak. So you got to play it as you according to your strategy. Okay, for some of you, trading smaller will absolutely be better for you. Some of you, it will not. In my experience, just looking at other people, followers included, in running an educational academy, a lot of you would probably do better trading less, and being sure of your trades. In my opinion, you should focus on one trading type. Find one trading type, just one, only one, that works for you, that you can verify to have a high strike rate, and then you execute that one. Okay, you focus on that particular trade type. Now, once you understand that trade type, you can go to a second type of trade. Okay, but you should, in my opinion, you should be a one-trick pony to start with, especially on a trade that gets a very high percentage of success. So anyway, just a little tidbit information, but this is the range I'm looking at. These are the notes on the side with that. Now let's go ahead and go to Ethereum. And for the daily here, kind of a sad story. On the weekly, we can look at this just briefly. We kind of close in the zone here, which is really just the daily zone. We did reject up from the highs here. The high of that is like 2,800. I did mention, I keep going back to the weekly. I did mention that this is a breaker here, and so this is your breaker reach. Actually, the breaker on the weekly is 2,000 roughly even. The breaker on the daily is right here at about 2,100, and it looks like that we're coming back down. Now, if you're interested in this, if we close in this zone, I actually think that this makes for a decent short, not the best short. You could actually fib block this as well. If this breaks down below, target the mid here. I think it's a really nice 2.5, and this could even go back down to that 2000 on the weekly structure. It looks pretty nice in my opinion. And that's pretty much it for Ethereum. I don't think this looks healthy at all. I think it's a good sign. I think Ethereum gives us a good tell on the real health of the market, because Ethereum kind of is, not to offend anybody, but it's just the wimpiest of the main coins right now. It has been for quite some time. So it is a good barometer of how healthy the market has been. And so we'll see where that goes, which is interesting, because I think that we're actually going to rally here maybe like beginning of Q4. So we still have some time for that, right? About 3 or 4 months. Or even longer. But right now, it's not looking like it's going to be that great of an alt season. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. So Ethereum, not looking too good. I think the short option I just presented looks pretty decent. Solana here, about 1% drop here. Nothing really here. The thing about Solana is it's not particularly weak or strong either way. It's just kind of random. Like, I think we're going to push here to the mid structure at 147. That's not going to say much. I'm kind of just leaving Solana be. I don't think it's easy to trade this right now. We did cross bullish actually, but just under about 46%, so a little under 50% on that. Still gonna hit that 147, which I think that we were gonna hit. I think I said that last week. But until then, I think it's just gonna be a lot of chop. I think this range is still a good range, but we did have a deviation, so I think it's still gonna be weak on either side. I would probably just raise this, to be honest with you. Because you had this breaker retest, so about 180 roughly would be the break for that zone. And you could even extend this downward too, to make a very safe conservative range. This is what I'd be looking at. I don't really think we're going to go to 106. That's pretty low. And so we'll see where this goes. I think overall, I think the market is going to be another choppy week, unfortunately. I personally don't think that the week last week was bearish enough. It still could bounce here. I'm fine with it bouncing here, but I still think we have a ways to go down. So anyway, that being said, that is the video. If you're in my Patreon, or you're interested in my Patreon or Discord, it's the same thing. Patreon and Discord, it's the same group. I have a video coming up right after this, my market watch list video, where I cover altcoins for the week. So I'll do that here in just a second. I do have a private video also coming up to share some Arun basics, and so look forward to that as well. Yeah, and I'll be back here on X here maybe in an hour or so. But I hope you had a good weekend. I hope you enjoy watching. I'll see you next time.